Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Gainy Titan. And as I think I mentioned last Friday that people are starting to go to, a lot more people seem to be going to very strange locations on the maps, almost as if they're new to World of Tanks or they've never watched any of the YouTubers or anything like that, or they've never seen any of the kind of recommended tactics for maps or anything of that nature. And I've noticed it again over the weekend, and this particular match is a case in point, but I had a couple of other matches. I had at least 2 encounter games on Step and an encounter game on, Sacred Valley. On Sacred Valley, where both sides just essentially went mob-handed directly to the encounter spawn point and had a big brawl around the cap location. Which is something I haven't seen in the game since the very beginning, since 5 years ago when I started out playing it. See it then. And then things settled down for a long time and people were kind of following more or less the kind of stuff that you were recommended on the maps. So the heavy tanks went to the kind of recommended location, and the mediums and the lights were, well, the lights were always a bit iffy because there were a number of people that truly understand how to play light tanks compared to the number of people that actually play light tanks is it's a very small ratio. There's very few people actually understand light tanking and scouting. Play light tanks that way in comparison to the total number of light tanks. Now we have a bit of a lag spike there. But if you keep an eye here on the map, you'll notice that, well, there's one enemy tank spotted in the town, and we're halfway. So we're up as far as the wharf. We're halfway into the town. Before he was spotted, there's I think 2 enemy tanks holding this or scouting around the central village, and there seems to be quite a few tanks up here in the northwestern corner. And that actually is the way it turns out. Turns out I think there's 2 tanks in the town. There's 2 tanks in the central village, and the rest of them are up here in the northwestern corner. Except the artillery. I don't think the artillery is in the northwestern corner. He'll be spotted later on in the game. However, the problem is that that's a rather bad layout, and also I think the 2 tanks in the town aren't getting the benefit of a lot of these guys that are up in the northwestern corner, because they're about to abandon the centre. Now, I'm not too sure why they abandoned the centre. Now, they are well outnumbered. But the thing about that location is if you're getting the support fire from behind you and you just stay back in the low ground, you can draw out the tanks coming out from the middle and they'll just get shot at from the people up in the northwestern corner, assuming they're in a position to shoot. So, and running away into the northwestern corner like that Type 34 is doing isn't going to do you any good, because he's crossing open ground. He was actually quite lucky to make it as far as there without being taken out. But he gets taken out anyway when he reaches the actual corner of the map, because there's just too many tanks looking at him and he's going to be spotted across the whole journey. And this Churchill 7 is trying to go reverse what he's doing to shore up the centre. And again, he's crossing open ground. And if he had experience of the game, he'd know that place is practically impossible to cross. You can cross it at the start of the game when it's not being observed and nobody's gotten up there. But as soon as the area is observed, that whole area of the 3-4 line down to the village is unpassable, or very difficult to pass once the enemy are established along the road where we are here. Our medium, as well as whatever it is, E1, has actually played a pretty good game, because he has advanced, he's lighting up tanks, and he's not pushing hard, he's just keeping himself alive and spotting tanks and letting the people behind him do most of the shooting. And we've taken the town. We're now spreading out into the enemy spawn area, and the guys up in the northwestern corner are now in a flanking. They're now flanked, they're under a crossfire, they're being lit up by everybody, and we're starting to see all of them up there. The other point is there's enough of them up there still that if they just rush down the sunken road and they'd overwhelm that medium tank, they'd probably make it down to my location before I or the 2 guys behind me would really be in a position to react. And if we stayed where we are, they'd kill us. And they do more damage than they're doing by continuing to hide up in the corner. It's too late to do it. They should have done it at the very start. If they had done it at the very start, they might have gotten into our cap circle before we'd have gotten back to reset the cap. But it's now too late to stay on a defensive passive stance up there. And if they actually went out in a blaze of glory at this stage, they'd still do more damage than they're actually going to do. This is shooting fish in a barrel. Like, they're just I'm not spotted, I'm hiding in bushes, they're being lit up, and I'm just pouring out the rounds. 20 damaging ribbons at this stage, 6 assisted. And I'm not even the primary spotter. Like, there's other people more advanced than me that are spotting a lot more things than I'm spotting. So I'm not in a position to be getting very good assistance damage. Now, I'm not getting very good assistance damage either, but the thing is that it was a completely hopeless it's a completely hopeless tactic. It's far too passive. It surrenders the initiative to the enemy, and it's well, that guy, he'd been better off staying behind the rock and shooting me when I came around. He might have killed me before anyone else would have got to him, but driving out of the rock away from me, he's just driving into fire multiple tanks. I suppose I can't complain too much since I have gotten 20 damaging ribbons, nearly 2,000 damage, 500 assisted damage, which gives me let's see now, a high caliber, a first class mastery. As you can see, I'm not able to keep up the 2 MOEs. I've fallen back from the 85%. Looks like 85% is my limit for the moment of my skills with this particular tank. Came number 1 by experience. It's easier to fall back, of course, with damage standing than it is to advance forward. When you're around the 85%, unless you're a very good player, a bad game can knock you back 1% or close to 1%, whereas a good game might only push you forward 0.2%. So, and it takes a really good game, like it'll probably take an ace tankery game to push you forward 1% or something like that. And they're rare enough on the ground. On the other hand, if you don't practice with tanks, you won't get better with them. So there's something to be said for continuing playing it. And I find the T67 quite a fun little tank. I'm trying to do something similar with the Comet with equal lack of success, but I will persist in doing it as well, because again, I find it fun. Although the Comet has been nerfed considerably than what it was when I was playing it 2 or 3 years ago, where it had really, really very good turret armor. Now, this game is also in the T67. We're on the assault side in the new assault mode on Ruinberg. They've moved the cap circle down to the southwestern corner, and the enemy are spawning all in the southwest. This has led to a completely different kind of game, and I think it's early days yet. It's hard to say how it's going to settle down. But in this particular case, in the couple of games, I've had a couple of games actually with this assault mode, and the enemy team, the defending team, seems to attack aggressively to the west, into that square to the south of me, which I'm going around the other side to try and get a covered location to shoot over. I have some success doing it in this game, but it's not necessarily a great location. It depends really how the enemy attack, and I think if the enemy aren't attacking in a way that you're getting shots off from this location, then you're as well off to actually leave and find somewhere else to be. So if the enemy come in from that side of the square where the T67 is, you can get a lot of very good shots, or in here through the middle. But if they actually start pushing along the southern edge of the map, you're not going to get very good shots from here, not without exposing yourself unnecessarily, because you're too close. You're going to be spotted. So it's a peek-a-boom type location. And if you can't peek-a-boom from inside in the buildings, now I make a big mistake here. I keep firing at the hull of this thing, whereas I should have been putting the shots into the turret, and I'm going to regret that later on massively. I personally think the key for the defending team is that village there on the western side, on the eastern side of the map, the one on the E line, E9, E0. If the defending team can hold that village and break the attack coming from the north and from the centre, they've pretty much won the game. They don't need to take the square, they just need to really stop the attacking team from exploiting across the square. And I think it's very hard to actually take the square. I think probably the best approach for the attacking team is across the north, develop across the north, and also in the centre being that boulevard there where from the 2 spawn point and shoot up into that village. It's a difficult enough spot to hold from the defending team's point of view, but if they can hold that village, I think they're going to win the game, and if they don't hold that village, they're probably going to lose the game. I think in the 3 games that I played on this location over the weekend, on this version of on this mode of the game, the enemies they succeeded maybe in attacking across the square down here in the south. Each time they eventually wiped out the green team at this side, but they never done it in time to influence the match. Usually the match was admittedly on the 2 other occasions they had won the northern end of the map by this stage, and they were actually breaking into the city and pushing down onto this location from the other side as well. They've pretty much won this location at the moment, and I should probably have just legged it, but I didn't really realise, and I still saw opportunities for doing damage. I just stayed here a little longer than I should have, because there's a Crusader now I can take out, but there are 2 more tanks out there, I think. And there's that Panzer 54 as well. However, I get completely engrossed with the Crusader, and I don't take any notice of what's going on in the larger tactical situation. And there's a second tank. There's a tank now moving on to my location, and I'm completely unaware of it, which I think is the Panzer 54. And there's also a heavy tank actually behind him. Here he comes, and I've gone the wrong way, so he takes me out. Well, I don't think I'd have survived anyway, no matter what direction I would have, because if I went out into the square, the heavy tank would probably take me out of that light tank coming up. However, they've lost. We're still holding the town. We're coming into the cap circle behind them, and they're not going to regain the cap circle position. So it is pretty much game over. We're going to either hold the cap circle, or we're just going to crush what's remaining tanks. In fact, there's only 1 remaining tank left, which I think is the Panzer 54. He's coming up around the back street there, and he's trying to engage one of our tank destroyers, who is tucked in actually in a pretty strong defensive position, so he's only have to face him in, and he's probably a 1-shot kill to the Stug anyway. And he gets taken out from behind by another T67. So it is game over. We won again, and I did a reasonably okay, I think. 1,000 damage, which is over twice my hit points. It's kind of an easy enough tank to do well in. It's got a rapid rate of fire, decent enough gun. You know you're doing extremely well when you run out of ammunition. This is one of those tanks that seems to have a lot of ammunition, but then when you're doing really, really well, you find that it doesn't have as much as you thought it would have. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. If you did, please give it a like and a share. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.